Okay, let's go.
All right, let's get right into it. The whole idea of self-improvement is everywhere, right? But how do you actually do it? Like, in a way that really works? And maybe even more important, why should you even bother in the first place? So today, we're going to break down a really powerful, really practical way to think about all this. So this is the big question we have to start with. Before we get into any of the how-tos or the life hacks, we got to ask, what is the point of all this work? Is it about getting rich, finding happiness? What if what if the answer isn't some big shiny goal? What if it's something way more direct and honestly, way more primal? And there it is. The real motivation here isn't about reaching some perfect state of enlightenment. It's about reducing stupid, unnecessary suffering. It's really a defense mechanism. Look, life is going to throw enough real, unavoidable pain your way. The goal is to stop piling on more of it yourself because you're disorganized or you don't have any direction. Now, what's so powerful about this is that it frames the whole thing not as some casual hobby, but as a serious responsibility. There are actual consequences for not getting your act together. You're going to pay for it, for sure. But so will your family, your friends, the people you work with. So the key takeaway here is that this whole thing, it has real stakes. Okay, so if the problem is that serious, where in the world do you even begin? Well, the answer is surprisingly small. It's immediate. You don't start by trying to solve world hunger. You start with the one little patch of the universe you actually inhabit. You start with your room. The method itself is, well, beautiful in its simplicity. You literally just sit down on your bed or in a chair, and you have to genuinely ask yourself, okay, what's one thing in here I could fix in like the next 10 minutes that would make this place just a little bit better? It's not a command, it's a real question. And if you ask it honestly, your brain will start serving up answers. And these answers aren't going to be some huge, impossible project. They're going to be the little things you've been pretending not to see for weeks. That stack of papers that's been staring at you, the dust bunnies having a party under your desk, that absolute rat's nest of cables that drives you crazy. These are the things that will just pop out at you, basically begging to be fixed. And this right here is the whole principle in a nutshell. You start with what your own mind tells you is A, broken, and B, something you could actually fix. Don't worry about all the giant problems in the world you don't know how to solve yet. Just fix one small thing you can, then do another, then another. You would be absolutely shocked at the momentum that builds. So, you're starting to bring a little bit of order to your physical space. What's next? Well, the exact same principle expands from your space to your time. And this is where we get into the incredible power of routine. Just take a look at this number for a second. 50%. What could possibly take up 50% of your life? It sounds massive, right? Almost impossible. Well, believe it or not, that's roughly how much of your life is made up of the things you do every single day. Getting up, brushing your teeth, your commute, the way you eat your lunch, these are not minor details. From a purely mathematical point of view, they are the bulk of your life. And this is why we need to completely flip our perspective. We usually just dismiss this stuff as boring, trivial, mundane. But the argument here is the complete opposite. These are the most important things you do, simply because you do them over and over and over again. Improving these little repeated actions has a gigantic ripple effect. Just think about it. Do you wake up and grab your phone to doom scroll? Or could you spend 2 minutes stretching? Do you scarf down your lunch hunched over a keyboard? Or could you take 10 minutes to actually taste your food? These are the points where you can get the most bang for your buck in improving that huge 50% chunk of your life. But, and this is a huge but, there's a crucial warning here. Humility is everything. Just because a problem announces itself to you doesn't automatically mean it's your problem to fix. You have to stay within what's called your domain of competence. The analogy for this is just perfect. If you were walking down the street and saw a crashed helicopter, you wouldn't just pop the hood and start fiddling with the wires, would you? Of course not. You have no idea what you're doing. Trying to fix problems you're not equipped for won't just fail. You'll probably make things way worse and maybe even get yourself hurt. So what is the deep psychological engine that's driving all of this? How does asking a simple question about your messy room actually lead to real, meaningful change? Well, it all comes down to a fundamental, mind-bending truth about how human beings perceive the world. You see what you aim at. Now, that might sound a little bit out there, but it is neurologically true. Your brain isn't a passive video camera just recording everything. It's an active, filtering tool. The second you give it a genuine goal, like find something in this room to make it better, it literally reshuffles reality for you and highlights the things that are relevant to that goal. And look, if this sounds a little too mystical, you should know it's backed up by one of the most famous experiments in all of modern psychology, and it will show you just how powerful and frankly how blind our aims can make us. So the setup couldn't be simpler. Participants are asked to watch a short video. In the video, there are two teams of people passing basketballs around. One team's wearing white shirts, the other's in black. Your one and only job, your aim, is to count the exact number of passes made by the team in white. That's it. So after they watch and give their number, the experimenter asks a really weird question. Because while everyone was so focused on counting the passes, a person in a full gorilla costume walked right into the middle of the group, beat their chest, and then just walked off screen. And about half of the people who watch the video don't see the gorilla at all. It's completely invisible to them. So the lesson here is just staggering. Your aim, in this case, counting passes, makes you literally blind to anything that isn't relevant to that aim. Even something as obvious as a giant gorilla. The world is just an overwhelming flood of information, and your goal determines which tiny, tiny slice of it you actually perceive. And this brings us to the final and maybe the most important implication of this whole idea. If our perception of reality is literally shaped by our goals, well, what does that mean for how we experience our day-to-day lives? Just really let that sink in for a second. If the world is consistently showing up for you as a negative, chaotic, or painful place, this principle suggests that one of the very first questions you have to ask yourself is, am I aiming at the right thing? Now, it is so important to be clear here, this is not a magic bullet. This does not explain away all suffering. There is a random, tragic element to life. Terrible things happen to good people for no reason at all. People get sick, they have accidents. This doesn't change any of that. But it is an incredibly powerful tool for navigating the part of your life that you can control. And that leads us to the ultimate conclusion here. If your aim literally shapes the reality you experience, then there is almost nothing more important than choosing what you aim at and choosing carefully. Because what you aim for will, in a very, very real sense, become your world. Which really just leaves us with one final question. And this one you have to answer for yourself. When you look at your life, your habits, your daily actions, where your attention goes, what is it that you're truly aiming at?